Good evening and welcome to WCNY's live coverage of President Barack Obama's visit to Syracuse. I'm Susan Arbetter, News and Public Affairs Director for WCNY. It has been a historic day already in central New York. Mr. Obama is visiting. It's the first time a sitting president has come to the city of Syracuse since Bill Clinton tried the food at Chevy Court at the New York State Fairgrounds. Here's a quick overview of the president's two-day swing, which is scheduled to end tomorrow in Scranton, Pennsylvania. First stop, Buffalo, where Mr. Obama started the day with a rousing 40-minute address at the State University of New York at Buffalo before a crowd of 7,000. The president introduced his plan for a pathway into the middle class. More on that in just a moment. He made an unscheduled lunch stop in Rochester at Magnolia's and then headed to Seneca Falls to visit the Women's Rights National Historical Park Visitor Center in advance of Women's Equality Day on Monday. At any moment, we expect the president to deliver remarks similar to those that he presented in Buffalo, right here in Syracuse at Henniger High School. Well, Mr. Obama's visit to upstate was billed originally as being one focused on the economy. Education seems to be taking center stage, at least so far. In Buffalo, he called for a series of steps to improve the way colleges work and make going to college more affordable for middle-class kids. The president wants colleges rated so families know which ones have the best value. The ratings would also dictate which federal and which schools receive federal aid. And Mr. Obama said he would also call on states to apply similar pressure on colleges using their own state funding formulas. Again, we expect Mr. Obama to offer those same ideas in just a few minutes here in the Syracuse area, where he's scheduled to speak at Henniger High School in the Eastwood section of the city. The president is also expected to recognize the Say Yes program. The Syracuse schools are the first to turn this collaborative program into a district-wide initiative. That's a live shot that we're seeing right there. Henniger High School, we are waiting for the president to speak. This is one of the larger auditoriums among the schools in Syracuse. We have two wonderful guests joining us to help us put the president's visit into historic context, and these folks are familiar to the WCNY faithful. Dr. Bob Spitzer is a distinguished service professor and department chair of political science in the Department of SUNY Cortland, the political science department at SUNY Cortland. I think that's how we say that in English. And then Lisa Dolak is here. She is the Angela S. Cooney Professor of Law at Syracuse University. Lisa and Bob join us every Friday night at 8 p.m. on WCNY for the Ivory Tower half hour. So it's great to see you both. I'm glad that you're here. Why don't we start with Lisa? What do you make of the president coming to upstate New York? Why in a sixth year of a presidency?
Well, it is, as you said, tied to his emphasis on the middle-class economy in particular, and this region, the cities that he's visiting on this tour are cities that have suffered historically or in the last several decades in terms of their economic performance. But apparently it also has to do with the concentration of institutions of higher education in this region. And certainly that's a very, very important part of the upstate New York economy.
So Buffalo, Rochester, Seneca Falls, Syracuse, tomorrow Binghamton. One thing that all of these cities have in common is the economy not doing so well.
Well, the economy's a problem. Things have been getting better even here in upstate New York. It's not as bad as it was 3 or 4 years ago. So the economy is sort of the backdrop to all of this. He's going to be talking about education as he did in Buffalo this morning.
Well, is he talking about the economy or is he talking about education?
Well, I mean, the two are very closely linked. I mean, you can make a very good empirical argument that that education, successful education and higher education is the surest path to economic security, to improving the middle class, to greater job opportunity, to greater security. So the two issues are immediately linked, and education is enduringly popular as an issue to promote for this or any president.
Why is it that he's talking about college, the costs of college, when our chancellor, the chancellor of the State University of New York, has talked so much about remediation and what has to happen at the beginning of the timeline when kids are entering starting the pipeline, kindergarten, first grade, second grade.
And that's a large part of what Say Yes is about, obviously, is encourage those kinds of improvements. I mean, the cynic would say there's a political aspect to this. This is an issue that's quite popular with recent college graduates and educated parents of soon-to-be college students. That's a group of people that has tended to support the president. Their support dropped off a little bit in the last election and could be important in 2014, which would help the president to retain the Senate and perhaps bolster the situation in the House, if not get the House for the Democrats.
And I don't think that we can oversell or overstate the importance of that politically. You mentioned before the show, Bob, that this is critical for a president to try to retain what power he has left and the numbers he has in the Congress. Hasn't been easy in the past for presidents in this year.
It's true. Presidents always face a problem in a midterm election year, which is that they almost always lose seats. Their political party almost always loses seats in the congressional year. That's even more true in the 6th year of an 8-year presidency. There was one notable exception, which was Bill Clinton in 1998, when the Democrats actually picked up 6 seats in the House of Representatives. But that's a complete anomaly. That doesn't mean it couldn't happen next year.
He's an anomaly on so many levels.
Well, he is. Part of the reason the Democrats picked up seats, I think, is because they didn't pick up any 2 years earlier in the 1996 election. So there was no inflated number to then be deflated in 1998. He would like to see the Democrats win control of the House. They need to pick up 18 seats. That's probably not going to happen. The best he can do at least is try and make it competitive. And the thing about upstate New York, or New York generally, is that it's a blue state. It's a state that's been voting even more Democratic, and that's true upstate as well. So even if the country as a whole is trending more Republican, there is still a fair chance the Democrats in Congress from New York could have a shot at picking up a few seats and certainly holding on to what they have.
And there are a couple of seats that are in play. Again, we're waiting for President Barack Obama to speak at Henniger High School in Syracuse. What you're looking at now is a live shot of the auditorium where there is a jam-packed crowd waiting for the president to speak, and he is expected to talk about education and say yes. We are talking about why the president is here for the political reasons. Why is he here politically? And I think that you make a great point, Bob Spitzer, that there are a couple of seats that could be picked up in this blue state that are so far either Republican or a little iffy in the past, like the Maffei seat, which was held by Anne Marie Buerkle, and Tom Reed may be in trouble with progressive candidate Martha Robertson in the 23rd.
Yeah, Tom Reed is a two-term Republican.
Very moderate.
And fairly moderate, but he's still fairly new. That's the best opportunity the opposing party has to defeat the incumbent. And of course, that's why the Republicans are going to be looking again at Maffei's seat. And again, upstate New York has the potential for electing Democrats to Congress. And there's certainly a shot at the Reed seat as the Democrats view it, so why not have the president visit Binghamton and areas to the west? Dan Maffei, of course, was one term. He lost his re-election bid to Anne Marie Buerkle. He's back now. The Republicans are still going to want to go after it, although I think he's going to be a lot stronger this time around.
Why do you think that? I'm just curious.
Well, I think he's a sadder but wiser political figure. I mean, when you suffer a loss that he didn't expect, I think he expected to win that race the year that he lost. I think he's changed his voting behavior. I think he's paying more attention to the district. He certainly is an intelligent fellow. He knows the policy issues. I think he's paying closer attention to kind of the political wins in the district, which is what representatives are supposed to do. And the one thing sort of going against him, I think, is the fact that it's the 6th year of an 8-year Democratic term, and the Democrats are going to struggle against that, generally speaking, nationwide.
Lisa, you also agreed that he is sadder but wiser.
Right.
Why? What?
Well, he's changed, as Bob said, he's changed his voting pattern. He's moved away from alignment with the Democrats, from sort of voting almost in lockstep with the Democrats. And that's something that obviously will appeal to a district that is kind of on on the fence between the Republicans and the Democrats.
So we are waiting for Barack Obama, who is going to be speaking about higher education in just a few minutes at Henniger High School. And what we're going to do is just preview a little bit of what he presented today in Buffalo, because he is expected to generally repeat that theme. And what we're going to do is go over exactly what it is that he's trying to discuss. And that includes this idea of rating colleges for the best value. Mm-hmm. How does this work, Lisa? And haven't we seen this before?
Well, he's talked about this, in other speeches, and it has echoes of what the rating system is that's discussed for the for-profit colleges. So there are echoes of it there as well. But how it will work is he would like to have colleges ranked according to a series of measures, including things like average tuition, student loan debt, graduation rate, and the average earnings of graduates. And and that's something that presumably the administration could do on its own, set up this rating system. Now, he has said that he would invite the input of colleges and universities in actually constructing these metrics that would be used to feed into this ranking
And I'm sure they're thrilled about this.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. I mean, this is, the second step that he's proposing is this notion of linking these rankings to federal funding of universities, which would obviously be controversial to colleges and universities, most of them
This is
anyway.
very similar to Race to the Top. It's like race to the even topper.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's got that aspect of competition, which, I like. That appeals to me, that sort of notion
Will we
of
see
incentivizing, because currently there aren't sufficient incentives imposed
So
on
you
universities.
like this idea because it does bring in accountability into the program.
Right.
Okay. But what are the challenges to making something like this work? Because there are many.
Well, one is deciding the criteria. The second is the rank ordering and mechanics of the ranking system. The colleges and universities will not be happy with this, and it's understandable why. To a great degree, or at least in part, rankings, especially in terms of affordability and employability after graduation, would that be an incentive for colleges and universities to eliminate programs in art history and philosophy, for example, where probably the average pay for graduates, if they can find a job in the area, is not very high as compared to, I don't know, nursing or business, let's say?
What happened to the classical education that we all thought that, this was like the pinnacle of what we are aspiring to offer our kids?
Well, I think you hit on what's going to be one significant criticism of this, which is that it denigrates the notion that the purpose of an education is to produce an educated, diverse thinking
critically
citizen.
Thinking person.
Yeah. Now, colleges have been consistently focusing their programs more and more on trying to establish career paths. You can major in this subject, and this is
like
a likely
low-tech.
career trajectory. Well, sure it is, and they talk more about this, but the basic liberal arts programs are still fundamentally in place at liberal arts colleges and universities across the country. But this, I think, is one more step that sort of moves away from the liberal arts ideal. And there is virtue to it, and I agree absolutely with Lisa, especially in terms of giving more information to people in a way that they can readily comprehend. If there's a summary list that you can get on the internet or in your newspaper.
People love that.
Right?
They love the U.S. News and World Report's ranking.
Yeah.
But as we know, they're meaningless in many respects, the U.S. News and World Report's rankings. How is he going to make these meaningful?
Well, he's trying to create this notion of value and paying federal funds in particular for outcomes, right? And so he's trying to impose these things that, and I think, one reason why, what happened to the classical education? Well, people need to eat, right? And the reality is
There's
that,
no call for philosophers.
Well, and there is, certainly there is, and has been an emphasis on
philosophy bloggers. That's what we need now.
Right. But there has been an emphasis in our economy. It has been shifting toward more technical jobs. And so, I think there has to be some realism here in terms of the fit between college graduates and the available jobs.
Why don't we take a look to see what's happening at Henniger High School right now? Hi, how are you? Obviously, we have a very enthusiastic, excited crowd here at Henniger High School, and we're still waiting for the president to come on and speak. He's supposed to talk, basically deliver the same speech that he gave in Buffalo with a little twist, and that is to add something about the Say Yes to Education initiative. Now, for people who don't know what the Say Yes to Education initiative is, would you be able to crystallize that for us, Bob Spitzer?
Well, the Say Yes program began in Syracuse in 2008. It was a collaboration between public schools and colleges and universities, the notion being that students who graduated from Syracuse public schools, in this instance, could get free tuition to attend colleges and universities.
So anybody,
in New York,
everybody?
In New York. If you graduate with a diploma, yeah, from Syracuse. And now I'm assuming that would, I don't know this degree of mechanics, I'm assuming students would still have to apply and be accepted on the merits, but to be able to attend a college in New York State, and there are many fabulous institutions here in New York, tuition free.
SUNY Cortland.
Well, absolutely. But even at tuition rates, I mean, the State University of New York tuition is roughly $6,200 a year. So even if you're paying that freight, it's a terrific deal, not just Cortland, but the other SUNY campuses.
So I guess one of the questions I have, and I'm asking this as someone who really wants to know the answer, Lisa, what are some of the factors that contribute to the cost of higher education? And are all of them just willy-nilly being added onto by colleges and universities that want to make a buck?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a fair portrayal of the reality. Some of the costs, obviously personnel is an important cost. Any educated, any business or enterprise that employs educated work, that's going to be a significant cost, workers. So faculty certainly is a significant one, but those, anything most faculty members will tell you, those aren't rising. Those salaries aren't rising particularly fast, and neither are the size of departments.
No, the budget lines are being eliminated, right?
So what you will hear colleges and universities tell us, and sort of consistently, is that a huge factor is technology. The cost of technology and increasing, sophistication of technology that is employed, not just in scientific and technical laboratories, but in classrooms, in philosophy classrooms as well. So
you mean technology is being used to replace the professor?
Well,
or?
in some cases, although that arguably the president believes, it seems, will actually ultimately reduce costs, this notion of online learning courses. I'm just talking about the instrumentation and the computer technology that is...
It's enormously expensive.
It's enormously expensive, and it's constantly, as we all know in our own lives, it's constantly being upgraded and needs to be replaced or it's obsolete. Yeah. This is one of the very top drivers, and that's not something that colleges can easily control. Now, of course, another thing that colleges get criticized for is the sort of amenities that schools have built in this arms race that we talk about, gyms and fancy new bookstores.
The edifice complexities.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
Well, there's a part related to that as well, which is that if you look at the personnel expenses of any institution, which, as Lisa points out, is the greatest percentage, more and more personnel costs are attached to employees who are not connected with teaching.
Right.
And the percentage of employees who are in classrooms teaching has been declining. The percentage of employees teaching who are adjuncts, part-time, and their salary is much lower, has been growing a great deal. And because colleges feel a greater obligation to provide services, to staff these facilities, to provide all kinds of student services, recreational services, all kinds of other things, there are a great many personnel costs that simply didn't exist 30, 40 years ago. Sure. And that has been a bone of great contention, as you might imagine, in debates in higher education right up to the present.
You were watching WCNY's live coverage of President Obama's appearance right here in Syracuse. Syracuse was to be his second stop on his swing through the Empire State. We are looking at a live picture of Henniger High School, obviously a very enthusiastic crowd. I loved reading I get the pool reports from the White House press corps. And during the motorcade, when it turned south to Seneca Falls to visit the Women's Rights National Historic Center, a lot of there were just people lining the streets in the rain. They didn't care. There was a pickup truck with a life-size Obama saying hi to all the press corps. So it sounds like we are going to Henniger High School now. We have somebody introducing the president. This is clearly a young person, probably a really good student would be my guess, wouldn't you say, Lisa?
Yes, I mean, he was introduced in Buffalo by a sophomore, a female sophomore, yeah.
Huh. Okay, and we'll go back in just a moment when the president begins speaking, but this is, again, billed as an economy swing, but it's not really, it's more of an educational swing. But my two guests today, Lisa Dolak of Syracuse and Bob Spitzer of SUNY Cortland, say the two are very, very closely related. But, you know, everything in politics is doublespeak. So why did he say it was going to be an economic swing and then start talking about higher education? Is it because the upstate economy isn't doing so well? Or am I just imagining something?
Well, if the economy isn't doing so well, it seems to me you might want to talk about it, to talk about the things you want to do or are going to do. They are interrelated, but maybe they made a deliberate policy decision to shift the focus expressly onto education. I mean, that's something I don't know.
We are going to go back now to Henniger High School, where President Barack Obama is getting ready to speak and address the crowd. That's not the president, but I believe that let's just listen in real quickly and see what this young man has to say.
They have instilled in me that education is key to becoming successful. My mom benefited from Pell Grants to advance her education. I will benefit from the Say Yes to Education Scholarship Initiative. But what about all students who have college aspirations? President Obama is committed to making college affordable for all students. President Obama wants each and every one of us to have the same opportunity for college and career readiness as he does for his own daughters. My family thanks President Obama for the commitment and to keep college affordable for middle-class families like mine. I am the Syracuse City School District. We are striving to become the most improved urban school district in America. I want to inspire the next generation, setting an example for my younger cousins, niece, and all of us to obtain a greater education.
This is just an incredible surprise, and this is a big day for the Syracuse City Schools. I guess Sharon Contreras, who's the superintendent, was just shocked when she learned that the president was going to come to the Syracuse schools. This comes on the heels. I hear in my ear that the president is coming out. Wow, dressed down. Looking refreshed after his Martha's Vineyard vacation. Says thank you to the young man who says he represents Syracuse City Schools. Let's listen to what the president has to say at Henniger High School in Syracuse.
Yeah, it is good to be in Syracuse. Can everybody give Emilio a big round of applause for that great introduction? I think Emilio's parents are probably here. Where's Emilio's parents? Wave your hands. There they are right there. He did pretty good, didn't he? We're very proud of him. We might have to run him for something. In addition to Emilio, I want to mention a couple other people. You already heard from Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan, who's doing a great job every day. You've got Mayor Stephanie Miners here. There she is. Attorney General Eric Schneiderman is here. Your Congressman Dan Maffei is here. The superintendent of the Syracuse City School District, Sharon Contreras, is here. Your principal, Robert DeFlorio, is here. And most importantly, a bunch of students are here. My understanding is there are students from all 5 Syracuse high schools here. You got Cochran in the house. You got Fowler in the house. Nottingham. The Institute of Technology. And our host, Henninger, is here. Oh, we're all one family. Now, I especially want to thank the students because I know you're still on summer vacation. You got a few more days. So taking the time to be here when you've still got a little bit, that last little bit of summer break, that's a big deal. And I'm very honored to be here with you. I am on a road trip. By the way, if people have seats, feel free to take a seat. I'm going to be talking for a while. If you got no seats, then don't sit down, because you will fall down. I love you back. So I'm here on a road trip through New York into Pennsylvania. This morning I was at the University of Buffalo. Tomorrow I'll be at Binghamton University and Lackawanna College in Scranton. But I wanted to come to Syracuse because you're doing something fantastic here with programs like Say Yes, Smart Scholars, Early College, High School. These are programs that are helping Syracuse kids get ready for college and making sure that they can afford to go. And this is a community effort. All of you are coming together, and you have declared that no child in the city of Syracuse should miss out on a college education because they can't pay for it. And so we're hoping more cities follow your example, because what you're doing is critical, not just to Syracuse's future, but to America's future. And that's what I want to talk about briefly here today. You know, over the past month, I've been visiting towns across the country talking about what we need to do to secure a better bargain for the middle class and everybody who's working hard to get into the middle class, to make sure everybody who works hard has a chance to succeed in the 21st century economy. And we all understand that for the past 4.5 years, we had to fight our way back from a brutal recession. And millions of Americans lost their jobs and their homes and their savings. But what the recession also did was it showed this emerging gap in terms of the life prospects of a lot of Americans. You know, what used to be taken for granted, middle-class security, has slipped away from too many people. So, yes, we saved the auto industry. We took on a broken healthcare system. We reversed our addiction to foreign oil. We changed our tax code that was tilted too far in favor of the wealthy at the expense of working families. And so we've made progress. Our businesses have created 7.3 million new jobs over the last 41 months. We've got more renewable energy than ever. We are importing less oil than in a very long time. We sell more goods made in America to the rest of the world than ever before. Healthcare costs are growing at the slowest rate in 50 years. Our deficits are falling at the fastest rate in 60 years. So there's good news out there, and thanks to the grit and the resilience of the American people, we've been able to clear away the rubble of the financial crisis and start laying the foundation for a better economy. But as any middle-class family will tell you, we are not. I hear you. I got you. No, this is fine. Wait. We're okay. We're okay. It's okay. Hold on a second. Hold on. Hello, everybody, hello. Hey. Hold on. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, sir. Hold on. So, now, you know, hold on a second. Can I just say that as hecklers go, that young lady was very polite. She was. And, you know, she brought up an issue of importance, and that's part of what America's all about. So we don't want to. But what America's also all about is making sure the middle class families succeed and that people who work hard can get into the middle class. And what I was saying is that we're not where we need to be yet. We still got more work to do. Because even before the most recent financial crisis, we had gone through a decade where folks at the top were doing better and better. Most families were working harder and harder just to get by. And we've seen growing inequality in our society and less upward mobility in our society. The idea used to be that here in America, anybody can make it. But part of that was because we put these ladders of opportunity for people. And unfortunately, what's happened is it's gotten tougher for a lot of folks. So we've got to reverse these trends. This has to be Washington's highest priority. How do we make sure everybody gets a fair shake? That's got to be our priority. Unfortunately, you may have noticed that in Washington, rather than focusing on a growing economy and creating good middle-class jobs, there's a certain faction of my good friends in the other party who've been talking about not paying the bills that they've already run up, who've been talking about shutting down the government if they can't take away health care that we're putting in place for millions of Americans. You know, those are not ideas that will grow our economy. They're not going to create good jobs. They're not going to strengthen the middle class. They'll weaken the middle class. So we can't afford the usual Washington circus of distractions and political posturing. We don't need that. What we've got to do is to build on the cornerstones of what it means to be middle class in America. A good job, good wages, a good education, a home, affordable health care, a secure retirement. That's what we need to focus on. And we've got to create as many pathways as possible for people to succeed, as long as they're willing to work hard. That's what's always made America great. You know, we don't judge ourselves just by how many billionaires we produce. We got to focus on our ability to make sure that everybody who works hard has a chance to pursue their own measure of happiness. And in that project, in that work, there aren't a lot of things that are more important than making sure people get a good education. That is key to upward mobility. That is key to a growing economy. That is key to a strong middle class. Love you back. Now, everybody here knows that. That's why you're here. That's why a lot of your families are making big sacrifices to send kids to college. You understand that in the face of global competition, a great education is more important than ever. Higher education is the single best investment you can make in your future. Single best. And I'm proud of all the students who are working toward that goal. And in case any of you are wondering whether it's a good investment, think about these statistics. The unemployment rate for Americans with at least a college degree is about a third lower than the national average. The incomes of people with at least a college degree are more than twice what the incomes are of Americans who don't have a high school diploma. So more than ever before, some form of higher education, 2-year, 4-year, technical college, that's the path into the middle class. But the main reason I'm here is to talk about the fact that we've seen a barrier and a burden to too many American families, and that's the soaring cost of higher education. The fact is, college has never been more necessary, but it's also never been more expensive. Think about this. Over the past 3 decades, the average tuition at a 4-year public college has risen by more than 250%. The typical family income has gone up 16%. So, you know, I wasn't a math major, but let's just think about it. College costs, 250%. Incomes, 16%. What that means is that more and more, it's getting harder and harder for students to be able to afford that college education. And families are making bigger and bigger sacrifices, including a lot of parents who are putting off their own retirement, their own savings, because they're trying to help their kids afford a college education. In the meantime, over the past few years, you've got too many states that have been cutting back on their higher education budgets. Colleges have not been cutting back on their costs, and so what you end up with is taxpayers putting in more money, students and families picking up the tab, but young people are still ending up with more debt. The average student who borrows for college now graduates owing more than $26,000. And a lot of young people owe a lot more than that. I've heard from a lot of these young people, and they're frustrated because they're saying to themselves, we've done everything our society told us we were supposed to do, but crushing debt is crippling our ability to get started in our lives after we graduate. It's crippling our self-reliance and the dreams that we had. At a time when higher education's never been more important or more expensive, too many students face a choice they should not have to make. Either they say no to college, or they pay the price of, you know, going to college and ending up with debt that they're not sure will pay off. And that's not a choice that we should ask young people to make. That's not a choice we should accept. You know, if you think about what built this country, this is a country that's always been at the cutting edge of making a good education available to more people. My grandfather, when he came back from World War II, he had the chance to go to college on the GI Bill. My mother got through school while raising 2 kids because she got some help. Michelle and I, we didn't come from, you know, rich folk. We did not come from privileged backgrounds. So we're only where we are today because scholarships and student loans gave us a shot at a good education. And we know a little bit about paying back student loans because we each graduated from college and law school with a mountain of debt. And even with good jobs, I didn't pay it off, and she didn't pay off her loans until I was almost a U.S. Senator. I was in my 40s. So over the past 4 years, what we've done is to try to take some steps to make college more affordable. First thing we did, we enacted historic reforms to the student loan system. What was happening was student loans were going through banks. Banks were making billions of dollars. We said, why don't we just give the loans directly to the students, cut out the banks, then we can help more students. Then we set up a consumer watchdog that's already helping families and students sort through all the financial options so they really understand them and they're not ripped off by shady lenders. And we're providing more tools and resources for students and families trying to finance college. And by the way, high school seniors, you guys want to start figuring this stuff out, go to studentaid.gov. That's a website, studentaid.gov. And it'll give you a sense of what's available out there. We took action to cap loan repayments at 10% of monthly income for a lot of borrowers who trying to pay their debt, but do so in a responsible way. So overall, we've made college more affordable for millions of students and families through tax credits and grants and student loans. And just a few weeks ago, Democrats and Republicans worked together to keep student loan rates from doubling. And that saves a typical undergraduate more than $1,500 for this year's loans. So now, that's all a good start, but it's not enough. The system we have right now is unsustainable, because if it keeps on going up 250% a year, your incomes are only going up 16%, not 250% a year, over a decade, but your incomes are only going up 16%. It's just, at a certain point, it'll break the bank. There won't be enough federal aid to make up for the difference. And families at a certain point aren't going to be able to send their kids to school. And state legislatures, they can't just keep cutting support for public colleges and universities. Colleges can't just keep on raising tuition year after year and pushing these state cutbacks onto students and families, and federal taxpayers are not going to be able to make up all the difference. Our economy can't afford the $1 trillion in outstanding student loan debt. Because when young people have that much debt, that means they can't buy a home. It means they can't start the business that maybe they've got a great idea for. And we can't price the middle class and everybody working to get into the middle class out of a college education. It'll put our young generation of workers at a competitive disadvantage for years. So if higher education is still the best ticket to upward mobility in America, and it is, then we've got to make sure it's within reach. We've got to make sure that we are improving economic mobility, not making it worse. Higher education should not be a luxury. It is a necessity, an economic imperative that every family in America should be able to afford. So, now, so what are we going to do about it? Today, what I've done is propose major new reforms that will shake up the current system. We want to create better incentives for colleges to do more with less and to deliver better value for our students and their families. And some of these reforms will require action from Congress, which is always difficult. Some of these changes, though, I can make on my own. And we want to work with colleges to keep costs down. States are going to need to make higher education a higher priority in their budgets. And by the way, we're going to ask more from students as well if they're receiving financial aid. And some of these reforms won't be popular for with everybody, because some folks are making out just fine under the status quo. But my concern is not to look out just for the institutions. I want to look out for the students who these institutions exist to serve. And I think I've got confidence that our country's colleges and universities will step up to the plate if they're given the right incentives. They too should want to do the right thing for students. So let me be specific. Here are 3 things we're going to do. Number 1, I'm directing my administration to come up with a new rating system for colleges that will score colleges on opportunity, whether they're helping students from all kinds of backgrounds succeed, and on outcomes, whether students are graduating with manageable debt, whether they're actually graduating in the first place, whether they have strong career potential when they graduate. That's the kind of information that will help students and parents figure out how much value a particular college truly offers. Right now, all these ranking systems, they rank you higher if you charge more and you let in fewer students. But you should have a better sense of who's actually graduating students and giving you a good deal. So down the road, we're going to use these ratings, we hope, by working with Congress, to change how we allocate federal aid for colleges. And we're going to deliver on a promise that I made last year. Colleges that keep their tuition down are the ones that will see their taxpayer funding go up. We got to stop subsidizing schools that are not getting good results. Start rewarding schools that deliver for the students and deliver for America's future. That's our goal. Our second goal, we want to encourage more colleges to embrace innovation, to try new ways of providing a great education without breaking the bank. A growing number of colleges across the country are testing some new approaches, so they're finding new ways, for example, to use online education to save time and money. Some are trying what you're doing right here in Syracuse, creating partnerships between high school and colleges so students can get an early jump on their degree, they can graduate faster. That means they're paying less in tuition. I want to see more schools and states get in the game so more students can get an education that costs less but still maintains high quality. And we know it can be done, it's just we got to get everybody doing it, not just a few schools or a few cities around the country. That's the second goal. Somebody screamed and I thought somebody fell, but they were just excited. Number three, we're going to make sure that if you've taken on debt to earn your degree, that you can manage and afford it. You know, nobody wants to take on debt, but even if we do a good job controlling tuition costs, you know, some young people are still going to have to take out some loans. But, you know, we think of that as a good investment because it pays off in time. As long as it stays manageable, as long as you can pay it back. And remember, again, Michelle and I, we went through this. It took us a long time to pay off our student loans. But we could always manage it. It didn't get out of hand. And I don't want debt to keep young people, some who are here today, from going into professions like teaching, for example, that may not pay as much money, but are of huge value to the country. And I sure don't want young people not being able to buy a home or get married or start a business because they're so loaded down with debt. So what we've done is 2 years ago, I capped loan repayments at 10% of a student's income after college. We call it pay as you earn. And so far, this, along with a few other programs, has helped more than 2.5 million students. But right now, a lot of current and former students aren't eligible, so we want to work with Congress to fix that so that we got a lot more people who are eligible for this program. And then the problem is a lot of young people don't know this program exists. So we're going to do a better job advertising this program so that you will never have to pay more than 10% of your yearly income in servicing your debt. And if you're involved in public service or non-for-profits, then at some point that debt gets forgiven because you're giving back to society in other ways. So we're gonna launch a campaign to help borrowers learn more about their options. We want every student to have the chance to pay back their loans in a way that doesn't stop them from pursuing their dreams. So if we move forward on these 3 points, increasing value, making sure that young people and their parents know what they're getting when they go to college, encouraging innovation so that more colleges are giving better value, and then helping people responsibly manage their debt, then we're going to help more students afford college. We're going to help more students graduate from college. We'll help more students get rid of their debt so they can get started on their lives. And it's going to take some hard work. But, you know, the people of Syracuse know something about hard work. The American people know something about hard work. And we've come a long way together over these past 4 years. I intend to keep us moving forward on this and every other issue. We're going to keep pushing to build a better bargain for the middle class and everybody who's fighting to join the middle class. And we're going to keep fighting to make sure that this country remains a country where hard work and studying and responsibility are rewarded. We're going to make sure that no matter who you are, or where you come from, or who you love, or what your last name is, in the United States, you can make it if you try. Thank you, Syracuse. God bless you. God bless America.
President Barack Obama talking about his affordable college education plan at Henniger High School in Syracuse. Some things that he said: we were able to clear away the rubble of the financial crisis, and now we have to make sure everyone gets a fair shot. Lots of questions are rolling through my mind. I've got two terrific guests, Bob Spitzer, Lisa Dolak. Lisa from Syracuse, Bob from SUNY Cortland. Let's go to you first, Bob. Thoughts on the governor's plan, or the president's plan?
I think taken as a whole, it's a sensible plan. There's a lot below the surface in terms of how these things would really work, but none of this strikes me as starkly innovative, frankly, or pie in the sky. And I don't mean that as a criticism, but it's really a plan that brings together a lot of issues that are being discussed hotly in higher education right now. Things like distance education, online education, much talk about spiraling costs in education, although that is an issue, but I think it's less of an issue, frankly. Let me mention one fact, that the average debt for a student graduating from college is $26,000 a year. That's a lot of money, but $26,000 a year, that's a decent new car. I mean, that is not a degree of debt for what you get in a four-year education that, to me, represents something that is out of line with what you get. I mean, again, indebtedness is a problem, especially if you have few resources, and there's more of a problem with college students getting jobs after they leave college, partly because of the down economy. And addressing that debt, facilitating students' ability to manage the debt. Obama talked, for example, about putting a cap so that no more than 10% of your annual income would have to go to service the debt. Making those kinds of adjustments can be very helpful for students, especially in the first few years out of college. So I think this is very much an incremental plan, a plan that brings together a lot of different ideas and is not too much of a reach for this administration.
What do you think, Lisa?
Well, what struck me is how much he sort of soft played or downplayed the stick part of this, which would be the link to federal funding, and he sort of very mildly and briefly criticized Republicans and the odds of getting the portion of it that he would need Congress
His
through.
good friends.
His good friends
in the
right.
Republican Party.
I actually expected him to beat up on Republicans a litlittle bit more, and was a little bit surprised about that. Yeah, I mean, it's all in the implementation, and I think just as he even seemed, I mean, he said he's going to commission this creation of this rating system, and as Bob said, the devil's in the details there. Things like measuring
graduation rates.
Graduation rates. I mean, if you're going to take graduation rates as a factor into these things, will that have the perverse effect of encouraging colleges or discouraging colleges and universities from accepting,
borderline students?
Borderline students, right.
I just want to mention that for people who have been watching WCNY's live coverage of President Barack Obama's speech at Henniger High School, there was a moment during the speech at the beginning where apparently there was a heckler, and you couldn't see the heckler from our vantage point, but we have heard that it was Green Party congressional candidate, former Green Party congressional candidate, Ursula Rosum. Don't know what she was heckling him about. My guess is fracking. What do you think?
In all likelihood, that's the issue. There are two issues that have been dogging this particular campaign for Governor Cuomo, and why perhaps he's not here today, and also the president. One is hydrofracking, and the federal government is being brought into that, and also the New York SAFE Act, which was not an issue here today.
No, but it was definitely an issue, for example, for the governor at his Adirondack Challenge, and it's been dogging him for a long time, and this is the restrictions on guns. But let's get back to SUNY's rational tuition increases. This is something that we have here in New York, that, Chancellor Zimfer and the governor and others have tried to sort of make sure that there are planned increases in tuition so students don't get whomped with these surprise increases. How would something like the president's affordability plan jibe with that?
Well, I think SUNY is well ahead of the curve on that. I mean, President Obama mentioned a statistic that public college tuition rates have increased 250% over some period of years. That has not been the case here in the state of New York. In the last 10 or 12 years, the tuition has gone from roughly $5,800 to about $6,300 or $6,400, which of course is nothing near anything like 250%. The problem is that you have to go, or had to go, to the New York State Legislature to increase tuition, and the legislature had no political disposition to do it, and tuition sat at a fixed level for years until the pressure finally built. And this happened at a time as state aid has continued to decline to the state university system, so it really was feeling that double pinch. And that's why this rational tuition policy, which introduces pretty small incremental changes, $100 a year or a little more, makes some sense.
We have about a minute, and I just want to get your last sort of thoughts on all of this, Lisa.
Well, I think we have to take with a grain of salt the whole rhetoric around soaring college costs. I mean, first of all,
they're not soaring?
They're not soaring at the rate of the numbers that you sometimes hear, and that's because the numbers you hear are always based on the sticker price and not based on what's called the net cost, which factors in sources of scholarships and things like that.
Yeah.
Any last words, any last thoughts, Bob Spitzer?
It's great to have the president visit Central New York. There is a political context, but anytime the president comes to your town, it's a big moment, and it doesn't matter who the president is.
Thank you for joining us. Our guests tonight have been just fantastic. Dr. Bob Spitzer, Distinguished Service Professor and Department Chair of the Political Science Department at SUNY Cortland. See, I got it right for once.
I know you did.
And we have Lisa Dolak, the Angela S. Cooney Professor of Law at Syracuse University. You guys were both very insightful and added a lot to our conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us for WCNY's special coverage of President Obama's trip through upstate New York. Remember to stop in with us at Bob and Lisa tomorrow night at 8 for the Ivory Tower, where I bet the topic of conversation will be the president's visit. Good night.